All right, all right. It's Friday. It's January 19th. It's late right now. It's about 12:35 my time on the West Coast, and I'm just finishing up for today. Had a bit of a mixed day today. My first trade was a loss, and my second trade was a win with a nice runner on one evaluation. So a mixed day. And for the week, not as strong as I would have thought or would have liked. 10-4 for the week. And, this week I kind of changed what I was doing the previous 2 weeks because of the 1 day to pass and the 80% sale. So from Apex. So just real quickly, the 1 day to pass is ending in about 25 minutes from the time I'm recording this at close of market today. And, or actually, well, I guess an hour and 25 minutes because it closes at 2 p.m. West Coast. And the 80% off expires at midnight tonight, East Coast time. So that will probably most likely go back to 71%, I'm guessing. Maybe they'll do 50% for a day or two and then change it to 71%, but that's my best guess. And so because they did the 80% in 1 day to pass, I kind of switched gears since this is a new strategy for me. And I wanted to try out, well, what happens if I just take every entry on charts when there haven't been any losses for my scalp yet on that chart for the day. And, it was a little bit of a mixed bag, but I'm definitely leaning one way over the other way. And so that's to say that on Wednesday, after they announced the 1 day to pass and the 80%, I had a 4-0 day. And I took every entry. I did skip 2 entries in between my 4 trades somewhere along the way. But I did take every entry and I had a 4-0 day. And so that was making me lean towards, when I have a chart that hasn't taken a loss from my scalp size, take everyone till they lose. But since then, we did get 4 losses. We got 3 losses yesterday, and I got a fourth loss today. And, 4 losses in 1 week, not great. I mean, if I have 20 accounts and I just lost 4 accounts out of 20, that's 20% of my accounts I've already lost before passing any new evaluations, before getting any payouts. So I don't think the numbers in the long run are going to work out and sustain that. From what I can see. And today is a good example because today in my first trade, you see this red arrow here, this whole chart before then hadn't taken a single loss the whole day. This red arrow where I took my first loss of the day was the first time my scalp profit target didn't get filled on any entry this whole time. So, what happens when you, like today, your first trade is a loss and now you don't have a chart. This was the last chart today that didn't have any losses. So when this loss came up, I now no longer had any charts where there was no losses for the day. And then what do you do? So, and I think, look, the reality too is today was kind of a funny day because when I started a little bit earlier, I started around 6:45, 6:50 again in this area. There were a number of entries before my first entry today that took the loss, and they all won. But my lag was going crazy on my charts, and the bid and ask price was way separated from the price line. And it was like I couldn't trade it that way because I knew something would get messed up. So, and there was news at 7 right in here. So I didn't want to trade the news. And then after the news was when it really got bad. And so I had to actually shut down my entire NinjaTrader and restart it sometimes slightly before the trade I took, and then things calmed down. So I really wasn't able to take any of those trades. Now, if I was able to take them, then today might have worked out differently and I might have had a different kind of game plan at the end of this. But because I had a 10-4 week, I started off the week 5-0 really strong. And then, like I said, 3 losses out of 7 yesterday and 1 loss out of 2 today. Not great. Overall, I'm taking what I learned from this week as a positive. As you can see, I took 14 trades this week. That's more trades than I can ever remember taking in a single week ever, and since I've been trading futures in 3 years. So there's pluses and minuses. I think if I wasn't taking every entry and I was just applying my rules, my price action rules, not max rules, not drawing trend lines and channels and ranges and all the things he does, and he's trading on a ES chart, sticking with looser rules than Max Pat's rules, but basically applying some basic price action rules to the trading, including having good signal bars. I think if I had done that this week, I probably would have been 7 wins and today's trade, I think I would have been 8 wins and 1 loss by my calculations, just based on if I applied rules to the trades that I lost with. I actually think I would have only taken 1 of the 4 trades for the week. And one of the losses that I did get this week, I think did fit my rules, and I would have just taken the loss. So I would have had 7 wins and 1 loss. And when you think about it that way, that's potentially 7 accounts that are profitable and doing good. Or maybe if you only have 4 or 5 accounts, maybe 2 or 3 accounts are profitable and good, and only 1 account got hit with the loss. So that would have been a better week, 7-1. That's what I think that's where I want to be, kind of in that pocket. Last week I had a 5-0 week trading with my rules. And also trading with my rules on my 1 PA account, which I didn't take any trades on today, and really haven't taken any trades since they announced the 1 day to pass and 80%, because I just wanted to play it safe, knowing that I was kind of switching gears. But when I take a trade on my PA account, every single trade I've taken was using this system that I'm using, the BS system that I'm using, and then applying my kind of general basic price action rules to it. I haven't lost a trade on the PA account yet. I've got 15 winning trades on it, trading 2 contracts at a time. And that's why you see I have about $1,500 in profit, because I'm making $100 per trade. And that's working for me. Last week I traded, I had 5 trades, which is a really good week for me to have 5 trades in the week. They were all winners, and they all fit my basic price action rules for my trading. So I think that's where I come out in terms of developing my edge, like I say here. I think for me, the best thing to do is use a system that my brother developed and I'm working off of, and I'm kind of applying my rules to the things he's already been doing. And that way I have some discretion, and I can, decide, this trade doesn't look quite right. There's something about one of my rules that keeps me from entering. It's good to have like set in stone, I trade or I don't trade based on these few things. And the great thing about using my brother's system and what I'm doing, applying my rules, is it just will, first it'll keep me from overtrading, because I don't think I need to overtrade to be successful doing this. Secondarily, it gives me some discretion over, if a trade doesn't look right and I get a loss because I'm just taking every entry, that's going to make you feel some sort of way, because for me, when I understand my rules and it could have kept me out of that trade, then I kind of, to me, it bothers me, because I'm like, well, I was trusting the chart, like today, for instance. Here, actually, this is a good idea. Let's get into my first trade, and I can talk about this with some being a little bit more specific here. All right, so here's the live chart, and we had a really strong push up in the overnight, and there were a few things going on here in my mind when I started trading at 6:45. First of all, like I said, the lag was just really kind of crazy. kind of impossible to trade on my chart all the way through the news and quite a bit after. Then I shut the chart down and reset it. And so at the time of my first trade, I kind of had a couple of things in mind, which was the potential for a second leg up from the first leg up in the overnight. Because we were above yesterday's highs, it just seemed like to me that was something that made sense to expect. And by the time I took my first trade, like I said, there had been no, of course, my gardener is going to start right now. Let me pause real quick until he passes. All right. So as I was saying, this trade had no losses on this chart before my trade. And so what I was thinking as we get over here is one leg up and a second leg up. The other thing I was thinking was, I'd seen, kind of this basic level was holding here. So the fact that we had two attempts to kind of retest or attempt to close the gap, we had an attempt here, we had an attempt here, and it couldn't close the gap. To me, it just meant that we were going higher, because I feel like if this was going to go for closing the gap, it would have done it kind of like here and kept going down. But instead, it got back above the EMA and was like fighting to stay above. So this is a good example of what I was talking about, because now if you're going to just take every entry, well, here I have a chart that hasn't lost yet, and I have an entry right here. And so that's the reason why I took this trade, was because it was above the EMA. It had a pretty good signal bar, and I was expecting one leg up, two legs up, and the bigger leg up. So there was kind of like a lot of reasons to say, okay, well, the chart hasn't lost, and so I'll go ahead and take the trade. But in reality, if I were just using my rules, I wouldn't have really felt good about this trade, because we have a double top here. So if I draw this, the fact that we have a double top right there, gives me kind of like a little bit of feeling like, well, we could either end up just being in a range and it's not going to go higher, or this could be actually the beginning of going to fill the gap now. And, this is two attempts higher and failing. So, I talked about the two attempts lower and failing. Now we have two attempts higher and failing. So to me, this really was probably, according to my price action trading rules, if I was trading based on what I believed was good or not, I wouldn't have taken this trade. I think I would have waited. It kind of feels like it's in the middle of something, and it's kind of in a little choppy zone. So unfortunately, I did take the trade just based on the theory of, well, I'm going to take it because there have been no losses on this chart yet. And I paid the price for it, got stopped out, barely stopped out. And then you see it went and did, kind of what I was thinking, really almost to the exact tick. So that one was unfortunate. Again, I think it had a lot of things going for it, but if I was using some of my own discretion, it wasn't the most strong signal bar, and there was reason to think like maybe not the best area to trade. The EMA was kind of flattening out at that point. So, there were some kind of signs that if I wasn't just trusting the chart, I'm not sure I would have taken that. I'm pretty sure I would not have taken that. So let's go ahead and watch the live trade recording of that trade, and then we'll move on to my second trade. All right, so here we go, pressing play. And here you see the signal bar. Now here it looked like it was going to be a really strong signal bar. And, when it was looking this strong, I really liked it because of the strength of the signal bar and because of the chart. Then when it backed up a little bit, I was like, okay, well, I don't love the close. I don't love the signal bar. But again, because the chart was running hot, hadn't taken a loser the entire session, I decided to go with it. Now here, it was going away from it. I was getting ready at this point to cancel the trade. And then I noticed it was starting to come back up. And this was another sign for me, actually, that I probably didn't want to be in this trade, because there was so much pressure going down in that moment. But you could argue, well, it came all the way back up, so that shows strength. But just because of the nature of the bar before, it was kind of like a doji-ish bar. Again, if this wasn't such a strong chart, I would have skipped this. And even here, the fact that it touched me in and it started backing up right away, I was already like, okay, this might not go the way I want it to go. I think it even may have tried one more time here, but yeah, just, it was an okay trade. I didn't love it. I think I had to, the bias was right, like certainly going for a long. The ironic thing is I could have taken some shorts previous to this and they would have won, even though I had a long bias. But, that's just the way it goes. And there you see stopped out. And of course, no errors on the trade copier when you're getting into a losing trade. So I was in that trade on my account correctly, and we got the loss there. So let me now switch back to the live chart. All right, so here we are back on the live chart, and here's where I took my second trade. Now, we had already reached the measured move of this leg up, but I still had the bigger measured move up as well. Now, at this point, I was only going to take trades that fit my rules because I decided, well, for one, all the charts had a loss on it at this point. So there was no just blindly trusting any chart from that point on. So this second trade here, I changed accounts. So I changed to my number. Well, the first loss was on this number 23 account here. And you can see I lost 1,100. And then, so the next trade, I decided to stick to what my plan is supposed to be, which is one trade per account, win or lose, move on to the next account. So then I moved on to trade account number 32, which is also an evaluation. And I had an entry above here. And so now it just really felt like the long bias was really right at this point. If I go back here, we had that really big push up, and just every attempt to go lower just isn't working. And so, you could see it tried here, it couldn't go, it tried here, it couldn't go, it tried here, it couldn't go, it tried here, it couldn't go. And these all look very similar, where it's like going a little bit below the EMA, but then just a strong bounce out of that. And so because of my noticing that had a really strong, nice signal bar, it looks like it's an inside bar, but it's actually not an inside bar. It does tick like one or two ticks below the red bar here. And so if this was an inside bar, I probably would have skipped it. But since it wasn't, and also on my chart, the inside bars will turn white. So that's how I know it's not an inside bar here as well. So I liked this trade. I entered it, and I got a nice runner on this one. I got a 29.75 point runner. And I actually, was letting the auto stop trail on its own the way I like it to, but I was also trying to see if I can maybe capture more and not let it come down if it became too big of a bar. There were a couple times where it looked like it was going to do something and I was considering dropping it, but then giving it a chance, and it kept working up. And since this was on a 25K account, I was really just trying to hope that it would make it all the way to pass the account. Got to within almost 300 away from passing it. Unfortunately, it didn't make it the whole way. Now on this account, I believe this is day 5 or 6 traded on this account. So whether I passed it in one day or not doesn't really matter, because 1 or 2 more trades it'll pass. And if it's in 1 or 2 more days, that's fine. It doesn't really make a big difference. It's not like I need 7 more days on it. So that was a good trade. I was happy with the runner. Probably wouldn't have really been able to squeeze out anymore, no matter what, even if I wasn't doing the auto stop under 1 tick under each previous close. But here, let's go ahead and watch this trade, and then I'll be able to wrap up the video and get on with my weekend. All right, so here we go. And this is the recording of my live trade session. And we can see the other thing is I didn't want this to be an engulfing bar. So I was trying to wait patiently to make sure and hope it wasn't going to be an engulfing bar. And I dropped my order here. Now, technically, if it had engulfed, I would have been in this trade. But I was just relying on the candle closing before it engulfs, because I try not to take engulfing bars if I don't have to. And you can see just how fast that worked. Now, I actually thought it was just going to come back and stop me out. It got really close quite a few times here on this candle. And then luckily it just kept going. So I'll just let it run here and we can watch this. And I like that, by the way, I do like that I switched accounts, because, sure, if I left it on the same account, it could have got back $700, $740 of my $1,100 loss, and it would have been a much smaller loss. But as you can see, it was my last trade of the day. I didn't see anything else I particularly liked according to my rules, and the way the market just uptrended and had very few pullbacks for the rest of the day after this trade ends. So I'm much happier that I used a different evaluation account and made it that much closer to being a past evaluation, rather than just try to recover on an evaluation that, it's a 50K account. So when I lose 1,100, that was a pretty serious ding to it on one trade, trading 4 contracts. But I am still, the account is still alive. So what I kind of like is on a 25K, you take one loss and you've essentially blown up your account. You got very little drawdown. Your next trade, you're very likely to just get taken out of your account just because of any drawdown mid-trade, even if the trade ends up working overall. So the 25K account might not be the right account for me in terms of being able to trade 4 contracts on evaluations, unless I'm okay with just, one and done if it's not a good trade. But I think the 50K might make a little bit more sense for me, the way I really want to move forward trading, because I like trading the 3 contracts with the 1 runner just for these kinds of opportunities like this one here, where I can get, basically 30 points. If you just get a couple of those, every 10 trades or so on, accounts spread out, you're going to supercharge them to get to pass or get to payouts much faster. And so your accounts will get more staggered in terms of the balances. And I think there's something to that for me, where some can get ahead of others and they're not all going to be like near each other. That potentially could work really well for me. So as you can see, I was really manually holding my stop just in case I was sensing a bigger pullback. I wanted to just secure at least, what I had for the scalp of all the contracts. And then now when I see that, okay, it's making its run, now I decided I'm going to just let the auto stop strategy take over and auto move at the close of every signal bar, or at the close of every bar on the way up. And I do have in mind that larger measured move. As you can see, I did have the small measured move drawn here already, and I had drawn the bigger measured move earlier, and then I think I erased it at this point while I was trading, but I still had that in mind as like potential for, if we have a really big up day, that it can go that whole way. So as you can see here, anytime the price starts to pull back, I'm manually moving my auto stop just to be prepared in case I decide I want to like save from a big bar turning against me, and just try to save some of my drawdown if there is a big pullback on a big bar. And you can see here I'm toying with using my target profit as well. And this one, I really thought I was going to come get my stop right here, actually, which wouldn't have been bad. you know, it's hard for me to read it. 86 ticks, maybe it says. It's hard for me to read it. So look, it gets really close here. I don't think that's where it stops yet. I think I keep going. Yeah, so that one, I really thought I was going to get stopped out right there. And, it also, using a runner just, makes things a little bit exciting when you get one. And it's kind of like a free lotto ticket at this point because you can't lose any money on the trade once you get the break even +1. But then especially once you're beyond the scalp of the original 3 contracts that you scalped, everything after that is just a lotto ticket for how high can it go, and especially on a day where it's one day to pass, you can believe I was rooting for this thing to go and really go because this would have been a great opportunity to pass it just today. But we'll take a couple more days and that's fine. So this thing still moves up a few more bars here. I don't know, in situations like this, do I let the playback of the trade run or should I skip through it? It takes quite a while, but for anyone that doesn't trade with runners or doesn't swing trade and you're only scalping, you're missing out. Here's an example of like a good trade where you took your scalp already and now you're missing out on a really great move that you could profit from. But when you're putting all of your contracts into just the scalp, on one hand, that's what you're getting. And on trades where you don't get the runner, you're missing out on a scalp on one contract for all those trades. But, here's a situation where, when it goes 30 points, how many trades are you making up where you took your scalp on all those trades, but you missed this. So, there's a little bit of a trade-off. But in my theory, since I'm going to be rotating accounts and just cycling through them, I like the idea of each account having the opportunity, to get a runner and, hopefully it'll pay off at some point. So here it got really close to stopping me out again. You can see I was considering, should I manually get out of this trade? And I'm just kind of staying ready to be able to make a decision, but yet still letting the auto stop move my stop as the bars close. And so here's a case, where we're getting a pretty large bar now. The larger the bar, the more I'm considering getting out of a trade if it turns against it, because I don't want, necessarily a 90 tick bar to turn the other direction on me and miss out on all that profit and give up all that drawdown. So I'm just kind of, making a judgment call, manually making a judgment call as we go here. Ultimately, I do just end up depending on my auto stop and let my trade come out one tick under the previous signal bar, because I really want to just try to maximize it the best I can. Ultimately, when I do get out of this trade, the bar size where my stop is under it by 1 tick was 36 ticks. So I gave back 37 ticks, of my drawdown essentially when I get out of this trade on one contract. Again, here, getting up to 36 tick bar size, anything much bigger than that, you don't really want to give up that much drawdown. And there it takes me out. So up 740 after after the commissions and fees. And then coming back to the live chart, so you can see now after I took that trade, I'm out of the trade here. There was one more little bit of a push up. Would I have secured that much more? A little bit more maybe if I was trailing it at that point. But then there's a really big push down, and there's no way I would sit through this and give up my profit on my runner. There's just no way I'd sit through this before it goes ahead and makes this bigger move up. I mean, look at this thing. So look at that. I mean, here we are. It's after the regular session market close, and the market closed on its high today. So 2 trades today. I was right on direction. Had an unfortunate loss on my first trade that wasn't so bad. I wasn't so mad. It just is what it is. Easily could have won since I was correct about the bias. If I didn't use a tight stop, I would have survived that. And that's another consideration I might take, is to not use the tight stop, since it's essentially on the 25K, one trade or bust almost on 25K. And then the second trade, I think I maximized it the best I could for the runner. And there was actually another trade, I think this one, that I considered taking here. But at that point, I had the bigger measured move was hit. And so I'm really careful, according to my rules, that once you have the big measured move hit, you got to be really careful whether you take another trade to go higher still yet. Today it would have worked. Other days it might not have. And then, just this push up, there was just really, unless you're just going to just buy the run and not even wait for a pullback and just go with it, I don't really see how you enter. And then there wasn't really anything else that I would consider. And I really, normally I want to be done by 10:30. So once we got up here, I really didn't even want to trade anymore. I actually, at that point, went ahead and purchased one more 50K account evaluation for the 80% off. And I wasn't really intending to trade it today. I was still going to go back to this account that took the first loss. And I was going to, if I took any more trades today, I would have taken it on that one. Just because if I busted it, I would have been okay with it. And the reason why I bought the additional account today, even though I wasn't really planning on trading it, is just now I have a total of 10 accounts. So I have the one PA, and then I have 9 evaluations. And, just to even it out, 10 accounts, one's a PA already. And now moving forward, now that I got this out of my system to just try to take every entry that I get on my chart, now what I'm really going to focus on is looking for the best chart of the day and taking the best setups of the day, applying my limited rules. I've got somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5 or 6 kind of basic price action rules that I'm going to apply. And things like good signal bar, no trading off of an inside bar as a signal bar, not trading in congestion of, multiple bars stacked together side by side. Just obvious things like that, like trading long above the EMA for the most part, trading short below the EMA for the most part, except for in ranges. Then I'll trade off of levels where I see setups, kind of the idea of like, if it's retesting the opening price or retesting a previous day's low or high or retesting previous day's close or, those sorts of things. Or if it's in a range and it's retesting the same price level multiple times, just intraday, things like that. So just basic rules, applying it to the setups that I see, good charts, good signal bars. And that's what got me to 15 trades in a row using this system on my PA account. And it's also what was moving along a lot of these evaluations in the past 3 weeks. Now, this week, I blew up 2 evaluations, and nearly blew up a third, halfway to blowing up this one when it was halfway to the qualifying target amount. So I just see a clear difference just in this little test, and it's a small sample size, but 14 trades. If you take away the 14 trades before this, let's see, I have 31 trades total in the year 2024. So you take away that's 17 trades. So out of the 17 trades, I would only have 3 losses, and 2 of those losses were for similar reasons, where I was just taking every trade. So when you kind of backtrack it, I really would only have like 1 or 2 losses trading with my rules versus the 7 that I now have all added up. So, it just seems right now, out of a small sample size, to be a clear decision for me. Yesterday and the day before, especially after the day before where I was 4-0 for the day, and 5-0 for the week, I was like really thinking like, oh, I can just take every trade until a chart loses. But now I'm saying that I just don't think that that's for me. To me, that's Russian roulette. It's gambling. It's, it is going to the roulette wheel and betting on black every time just because it's been black a bunch of times before. But that one time it's not black does too much damage to an account. And it does it too often that if you have 20 accounts, I'm not sure that you get to payouts and past evaluations on enough accounts once you've cycled through the 20 and passed or failed them. I'm not sure it's going to be successful enough. So I think this is going to be a slower way for me to do it, which is more my personality anyway. If I'm getting 5 trades a week or 7 trades a week, I'm really happy with that. 14 trades in a week is more than I need. I have 10 accounts. So if I can have positive results on, even if I had 1 loss a week on 7 trades, that means that 6 accounts are in good standing, looking good, and 1 account got a massive ding to it. But with 10 accounts, I think that's more manageable, and I can manage the losses and avoid more losses than the other way around. So that's how I'm thinking about it moving forward. It's all about, for me, it's all about developing my edge, and a 10 for a week. This just shows me it's not using the best of my edge. The best of my edge is my understanding of price action and some of the hard rules I can apply to avoid some obvious losses, even though there's a lot of times where a trade looks bad according to the system and it still works for my small scalp. There's a lot of times where I'm going to miss winning setups that the chart shows because it just looks like a bad trade. I'm not going to enter it, but I'm going to avoid more losses than I'm going to get wins that offset those losses. So it's just what makes sense for me. So having said all that, 80% discount is going to be over at midnight tonight Eastern time. And 1 day pass is over at the close of today's session in 45 minutes from now. And next week, I'm going to move forward in the manner that I was going last week when I had a 5-0 week. And that's going to be my goal. 5-0 weeks are good for me. That's how I want to proceed. And we'll see how that plays out next week. If you're enjoying my journey here and like how I'm documenting it, like or subscribe, tell your friends. I would love to grow the channel. And thanks for watching. See you next week.